Welcome. Today I am joined by Paul Greenberg, author of the best-selling CRM at the Speed of Light, blogger at pgreenblog and ZDNet's Social CRM The Conversation, and foremost authority on the topics of CRM and social CRM. The purpose of our conversation today is to look into the CRM Idol competition in a way that may flush out business lessons from the most impressive or finalist candidates in a way that other entrepreneurs, startups, and emerging growth companies can learn from. Welcome, Paul. How are you today?
Awesome, Chuck. How you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Awesome.
Let me start with some context, just in case there's anybody not familiar with CRM Idol. This is an opportunity and a competition among small business CRM providers to show their solutions in front of the most influential CRM and social CRM thought leaders and analysts, and get both the feedback and publicity to hone their stuff and accelerate their growth. And Paul, as you said, it's easy to enter but difficult to win. But for the winners, the CRM Idol competition will highlight those innovative CRM software publishers to customers, analysts, ventures, media, and the industry at large. So with all that said, this year's CRM Idol has advanced from 60 contenders to 4 finalists from the Americas and 3 finalists from Europe, Asia, and Australia.
Yep.
Paul, when looking at these finalist contenders, how is this year's competition different from last year's?
Actually, what's amazing is they're actually more advanced, I guess, both in terms of the quality of the products and services provided and just in the maturity of those products and services, meaning the capabilities that they're offering are just that much greater than the companies on the whole last year, and thus made it even more difficult to get to the finals. Keep in mind what we're actually looking at here is not just the products and services, but the company. So we're looking at the management, we're looking at their plans for the future, we're looking at their strategies for the present. You know, we're looking at pretty much everything that would make them potentially successful. And it's a tough process. So these finalists were exceptional in terms of both the products and services offered, but the companies that they are too, which last year was probably a little less mature than this year.
Paul, were there certain shared characteristics among the leading CRM Idol contestants or maybe the 7 finalist candidates? And if so, what were they?
I'd say the first one was the actual maturity of thinking, really, more than even the products and services. I mean, in other words, most of the ones that made the finals were companies that had a very well thought out plan for how they're going to operate, for their roadmaps, for their marketing, and that's a key differentiator. I'll get into that in a sec. For their marketing, who their targets were and who they were going to be, and also for their lacks. In other words, no company's perfect. You have to work with what you have and then plan for what you don't. And at the same time, these guys understood that, where a lot of companies that don't get this far they just miss the mark on that thing. What they do is they'll tend to say, well, we're going to go do X, when if you look at any indicator, there's no way they're going to get to X from where they are without a miracle. These guys are going to get to X because they understood what it takes to get to X and have planned X based on the fact that they can, right? And that there's an opportunity for them. Nothing's perfect. They may be stretching a tiny bit, but they're not stretching into fantasy land, right? And that's that maturity, that way of thinking, vital for a small company. One mistake and you're out of business in a small company. And if you're a small company with VC money, your investors get very unhappy if you make that mistake, right? So these guys are the companies that we don't think are going to make those mistakes.
In terms of people, did you find that the leading contenders had certain management experience, skills, or other characteristics?
Yeah, I'd say not all of them, but the bulk of them have management who have done other things, have been around a while, have understood. Some of them were at very large companies, the Siebels of the universe, some of them were other small companies or a whole series of small companies. Some of them are investors who are put into management, by the investment company, but they're in there because they're good at what they do. But they're characterized by industry, some significant industry experience generally. There's one or two not quite like that, and by the focus, the ability to take that experience and focus it to the company that they're actually working in.
Let me tap onto something you just mentioned a moment ago. In terms of messaging, how did the leading candidates deliver their messaging?
One of the differentiators from the 60 to the 7 was just the idea of messaging. Okay, when I say that, meaning there's an enormous amount of entrepreneurial companies who have one uber flaw, which is they're so product focused that they don't understand marketing at all. And when push comes to shove, as great a product as you might have, if no one ever hears of it, who cares? Right? I mean, that's, and these companies actually don't understand that, right? And you have to actually pound that through them. I mean, they honestly think it's build it and they will come because they're engineers by nature. The finalists, their messaging was always one thing, clear, meaning it actually applied to what they produced, right? I mean, you have a lot of people who, when you're inexperienced at messaging, what the tendency to do is to just sort of go with a trend, as opposed to say, okay, here's the outcome my product will help you get, right? Here are the possibilities that you as a blank, whatever position you're in, will have because of my product. In other words, you have this business-focused message. Most of these companies, when their messaging isn't good, is features and functions. Mm-hmm. Here's the things we throw at you, right? These guys, the 7, and I would say most of the 7, some of them fall a little bit into the feature function mode a bit, but on the whole, they understand something. They're built around the idea of outcomes, right? And they have to actually provide the enablement of those outcomes, and occasionally even helping to drive the outcome, occasionally.
From the experience, what advice would you offer a startup or emerging growth company to achieve their maximum potential?
Well, first and foremost is, number one, I'm assuming the startup has good engineers, okay? I have to, because you're not going to go anywhere without them. So, assuming you have something to actually offer to the marketplace, market it. That really is the fundamental. And make sure that you are willing to put aside some either effort or funds, or at least develop a campaign, which you can do relatively inexpensively nowadays. Develop a campaign to get your product out there. It's got to be visible. You've got to be visible. You've got to be seen. You've got to be heard. You have to be. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this because I say it a million times, but if you're not seen and heard, you're not a company that anyone's going to care about because they don't know you exist. Okay? And you may have the coolest product in this universe, and you may be sitting there patting yourself on the back about how awesome your product is, and my answer to you is, I don't care, right? I won't care until I know who you are. And then make sure that you show me the outcome that it provides. If you do those things, I'm going to like you. And not only me, so will the market, and so will the potential customers, and so will the influencers. All those people are going to like you. But you got to do this early on. Not when you're uncomfortable. When you're comfortable enough with your whatever it is you produced to do it. But here's the deal. Take a risk. Take a risk. Put it out there. Take some blows. Learn. You will get the help you need if you provide the message that you should, and you have the people that are liked. And when push comes to shove, it's not just experience, it's the fact that you're personable that's going to matter too, especially if you're small. But you get influencers to like you, reality is they're going to work with you for nothing. They want small companies to succeed, and they want nice people to do well.
Well, with that very helpful comment, I think we're at a good break point for our conversation. This is Chuck Schaefer of Customer.tv, and I've been joined by Paul Greenberg. Paul, thank you very much for your comments. Thank you for those insights, and thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure, man. Always.